Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found the information on last week's show, how you're sabotaging your sales pitch unconsciously, informative. If you're unable to join us and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on our YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. If you'd like to receive notifications on when our podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. And if there are topics you'd find beneficial or questions you have, please feel free to reach out to me at media@abandp.com. Now let's learn a little bit about our guest today. Matt is a marketing entrepreneur, world record holder, crypto hodler, and the founder and CEO of handshaking.com, a company that connects contractors with local customers seeking quotes, allowing contractors to shake hands with more customers in their city. In an effort to learn how America's 1% all became friends and leveraged relationships proactively to reach success, Matt interviewed venture capitalists, members of Congress, and billionaires in the early days of handshaking and learned that providing instant value is the best way to begin all relationships. This led Matt to begin to help others connect with the hard-to-get investors, big-time CEOs, and others by building their personal brand through handshaking services. Handshaking only worked with clients for a temporary period of time and now does not sell any services, but rather donates hundreds of free leads to service providers annually before finding the right partner to profit with. So Matt, welcome to the show.
Hi, Candy. Thanks. Glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So this is going to be an interesting discussion we'll have today. But before I get into questions that I have for you, I would love for you just to tell me a little bit more about yourself and how did you even get into what you're doing?
Sure. So my entrepreneurial journey started by, I think, selling candy bars in middle school. That was, of course, financed by the parents. So it's easy to make a net profit, but if someone else pays for your candy bars and you sell them in middle school. But that entrepreneurial spirit carried on to college, where then I had to finance it myself, but I bought and sold motorcycles and on to real estate, because real estate, that's the kind of bigger assets. You have to sell a lot of cars and motorcycles just to make a buck. But with real estate, those assets are much bigger. So did real estate for a few years professionally, did that full time. That was my first business, and then got a little bit bored of it. I loved assets, developing them, buying low, selling high, adding value to assets, but I wanted to do it online. So I got out of real estate, had a little bit of cash, and that's when I launched Handshaking. I knew that relationships were important to me, and that was about 7 or 8 years ago. I started Handshaking and just I struggled through the early years trying to figure out how we're going to make money online. And today I can proudly say we make money online by developing websites that generate leads. So what that means is that we partner with a real estate contractor and they buy all the leads from us, but we own the website. So if they stop paying us, or if they do a bad job with the customers, we're going to send the leads to their competitor. It's kind of similar like real estate, right? We build a website, we develop it, people start calling the website, asking for a quote, and then we sell those monthly leads to a real estate contractor. And that's the quick story.
So I'd love to get into the topic that we have for today. And of course, we're going to be talking about networking. So what would you say is the amount of time that a startup should be spending time on networking?
Yeah, so I think it depends where the startup's at. A lot of startups will be fundraising. And if you're fundraising, you're going to need to be networking. So we can talk about that in a little bit more detail. But also, if you're just a solo entrepreneur with your startup company, you also need to be doing networking to find mentors to hone in your business model and make sure that you're maximizing the value that you provide, getting good at that specific niche that you're developing your business in. So we can kind of talk about both strategies, although it's all networking.
It's great that you mentioned mentors too. I think a lot of times people don't think about doing that. They're just, oh, I have a business idea. I want to start my business. I have a little bit of cash. I've got, this hobby I want to turn into something, but they don't necessarily understand that there's so many things that maybe they don't understand. there's things that you don't know that you don't know, so having a mentor help you walk through that, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. So, I mean, there may be some people who have this concept of what networking really is, and you just walk into a room and you're handing out your business card and hopefully you're meeting people and then, you follow up with them later. But maybe there's some people who are newer that don't quite understand really how networking really should be working. And you don't just hand a card to someone and hope that it all works out. So what would you tell them is the definition then of networking?
Yeah, exactly. Handing out the cards at the business event, that's almost as bad as those 3 phone calls all of us, owners or website owners get from India per day. Hello, could I speak to the owner of the company? That's unfortunately, I get these calls from India, or it's the same, or any country. I mean, it is great to hire in, but what the problem with the way these guys are networking is they're not doing their research on who they're talking to. If you want to be a good networker, you know who you're going to talk to, and you only want to talk to that person or maybe a few similar people. And the first thing you say is informed on who they are, and you provide value to them right away. So let's talk a little bit more in specific on what that looks like. For me, in the early days of my business, I knew I wanted an online business. I knew I wanted to outsource in a different country, and I didn't want to hire in the US. And I knew I was bootstrapping with no investors. So I didn't know what my business model was, though. I just knew it online. So for me, networking was really important in the early days to figure out how are we going to make money online. And the way that I did that was reaching out to people who were making money online and asking them, how does my skill, how are you doing that? Can I interview you about your success? Like anything you share with me, I'm going to share with my whole network. I'm not just going to buy you a coffee. Like I want to interview you on my blog or on a video and provide value to you because you've had success. And by doing that, I will learn how my online business will grow. So I hope that answers the question on kind of, networking in the early days for entrepreneurs.
Right. Well, I think, like I said, sometimes I'll just go somewhere and people just start tossing the cards around or just handing it to you and walking off. And I'm like, that's not really networking, So I think people just aren't educated on how to do it. If you've never been in business before, you don't know someone else who's in business, and you're told you need to network, sometimes that's what happens because they just don't know like the best way to go about it. So that's why I wanted to talk about that a little bit too. So they know, don't do that part of it. Really just go with the intention of getting to know people and not just see how many people can get your cards.
Yeah, it's all about the quality. It's not about the quantity. And yeah, like you said, if you go and you shove your card down someone's throat, they don't care about your card unless they realize that you know who they are and what they do. And they also understand how spending even 1 minute with you is going to help their business. So the strategic success. And in addition to that, I'd also like to clarify that the handshake is the beginning of a relationship, and it should be the beginning of a long-term relationship. All of us should be looking 10 years plus in the future with our relationships. This is not just about a used car salesman handing out those business cards, just trying to sell a car and then you're done. It's all about the long-term relationship, and that's also where you'll find the value with your networking.
Right. So you talked about looking online and finding somebody that you could reach out to and learn from them as a mentor. And I was just saying earlier how important I think it really is. But what would you tell someone currently if maybe, they're not sure where to find a mentor or how to even approach someone to say, hey, could you help mentor me? They'll probably think, oh, they're so busy. They're not going to want to help me. They don't know who I am. So what would you tell them about how to find the mentor and maybe go about approaching them to ask for their support?
Yeah, well, mentorship is, and it should always be a two-way street. I always advise entrepreneurs, you should have a mentor where you want to be 1 year in the future. And you should also have a mentor where you want to be 10 years in the future. And oftentimes a mentor is willing to help you because if you guys are in the same industry, or if you guys are funded the same way, or if you have a similar type of partner or customers, it's going to give them satisfaction to help you avoid the mistakes that they made. So a mentor receives value by feeling good about themselves, which means it's also important for you to mentor people while you're progressing through your journey. It's also important for you to advise people and help them get to where you're going, because that gives you the energy to kind of keep going. So that's one value exchange there. But to answer your question on how to reach out to them, you got to just do it until you get a no. I think in the early days when I was hosting a video series, kind of like yours here, I reached out to a lot of people and people didn't know how I got in contact with them, but it really was just, I just kept asking them 7 or 8 times unless they gave me a no. Because you got to realize sometimes you might be emailing the wrong email address, or you might add them on LinkedIn when they only use Facebook. You don't know what these people are using, what platforms they're using. And if you're approaching them on the platform where they're most popular, guess what? They're probably too popular. It's better to add them somewhere else. So it's okay to try multiple times to ask these people to, I think people should be asking them to interview them about their success. If you ask them for coffee, everyone's asking them for coffee. And if you ask them for coffee, their message doesn't get shared with everyone you know. But if you ask to interview someone about their success, even if it's just on your blog or on Medium or on a Facebook post, at least they know that everything they share with you, you're going to try to share that with everyone you know. So that's kind of a shortcut to getting in front of people, is provide instant value to them and be educated on, who they are and what they do.
Right. Well, and I think when you were talking about, saying, oh, if you're in the same industry, they're going to, enjoy being able to help you. And some people might think like, well, someone in my industry is not going to want to help me because then I become competition. So can you talk to them about kind of that misunderstanding that that's often not the case?
Yeah, it's often not the case. I think that's what differentiates the big businesses out there and the little businesses out there. Is the little businesses are looking and they think there's not enough for everyone to share. They want to just keep their knowledge to themselves and they don't want to share it and they don't care about what you're thinking, and they remain a small business, and that works fine for many people. I see it across many cultures too. Living in 2 other countries in the US, I can say the US is a great place. It's the #1 country to actually be sharing knowledge with others, because our culture is primed for everyone to benefit from that. In other countries, if you share that knowledge too much, it's kind of primed for you to get taken advantage of. So you have to be aware of your surroundings. But at the end of the day, strategic long-term networking while doing it consciously is always going to be the win. It's the big businesses. Like, do you really think, I don't know any of the top executives at Apple. Well, I do have a friend who works with Tim Cook at Apple, but I'd have to ask him, does Apple ever share any data with Google or any knowledge? Like, the ones at the top, are they sharing information? Do you think they're completely clueless on what the other is doing? Like, surely they have some win-wins. And if they don't share knowledge now with them at the top, what about the olden days with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates? Did they really not talk? Did they not share information with each other when they were growing these businesses? Of course, right. They all know each other and they all shared information, and there are risks associated with that, but that is the way to really grow. We're talking about right. growing here. We're not talking about just maintaining. So that's how I feel about some of that. It's a risk, but it's worth it. And most of the time, if you give to others, you're going to get more in return than you could get on your own.
Right. Well, and a lot of times too, the people who are, willing to be your mentor, they realize like you said, there's plenty of business for everyone anyway, but there's probably some clients that they're just not suited for, that up and coming business owner might be, and so you could actually be a referral source. You can help them by giving them a potential client and things like that too. So it's good to build resources. And like, I love to meet other people who are in the bookkeeping field, just because, again, I might find someone who's in an industry that's one I don't want to serve necessarily, and I could refer them to somebody who does that, and so I think having more people in your same industry is a bonus, right? Instead of being afraid of competition.
Yeah, totally agree. There's always opportunities. Their business might buy yours. You guys might end up selling to each other. One person might end up selling, we tend to buy stuff from people we trust anyway. So it's best to work on trust first.
Right. So do you want to touch on then too, how a mentor can become vested in that new entrepreneur success? We've touched on it a little bit, but we haven't really gone into having a long-term mentorship. And so why would they do that? And what would be their purpose besides just feeling good about themselves?
Yeah. I can share a personal story on that one. So in the early days with my company Handshaken, I knew I wanted to be online and all these things. And I was networking in Denver, Colorado, where I've been based. And I kind of, I met everyone. I met all the investors. I met all the entrepreneurs. I organized a startup Denver meetup group. I knew everyone. But what I learned years into the business is that actually I'm outsourcing And most of these guys are not. Most of them are funded by investors too. Most of my friends have businesses that are funded by investors. And I don't want to go that route. I want the bootstrap lifestyle route. I want to grow a team. I want to grow a business, but I want to do it without investors. And I'm building these little websites. We don't need investors for websites. I can launch 10 websites per month. We don't need them. So eventually I kind of outgrew that network. Not outgrew it, but I needed a different type of mentorship. So I was outsourcing to the Philippines. What do I need to do? I need to go to the Philippines. 1, to meet with my employees. 2, to meet other people who are knowledgeable about the Philippines. So I went out to the Philippines and I met one of my good friends and mentors, Joe Magnotti. He's the CEO of Empire Flippers, which is the biggest marketplace for buying and selling websites that make money. And guess what? I'm trying to build websites that make money. And now we do build websites to make money. And we also sell websites that make money. So he kind of mentored me for a while. And then eventually it was natural for me to list one of our profitable websites on Empire Flippers. So that's kind of a natural way. It started with the mentorship. We're both in it for the long term. We're both living out in the Philippines during the pandemic, growing online businesses with Filipino staff. Of course, we're trading information. He's kind of a mentor where I want to be 10 years in the future. His business is about 10 years older than mine almost. So that's kind of a personal example on how mentorship helped me and kind of what I had to do to find it too. Because it's possible to meet him online, but we all know that the handshake means you're meeting in person. That's still where business gets done and where trust is built. So I hope that helps you guys who are tuning in on networking.
Right. So what would you say to somebody who maybe feels like, okay, well, I'm starting out, I've, had a mentor helping me to this position. Like, how long should I have a mentor? When should I change a mentor? Like if my business continues changing and I know I need to have someone maybe long-term, but the one I have maybe isn't ideal anymore. Like, how do they know when they maybe should change mentors or what that long-term strategy might be, just to keep that growth going?
Yeah, well, I don't really know if I agree with the sort of changing out mentors let's be clear here. There's mentorship that you can receive because you have a relationship with someone, and there's mentorship you can receive because you're paying someone a monthly fee. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more often called coaching. Okay. And those are two very different things. To be clear, I'm talking about using personal relationships for long-term growth. Mm-hmm. I'm not really talking about paying a coach to hold yourself accountable. I've tried that a couple of times and I've never been able to find anything specific enough. Now, I think there's a lot of courses out there, and an entrepreneur who's changing industries and launching a business in a different field than what they're in, I think it's great to, pay a fee and do a 3-month course and meet people in the industry and learn maybe a little guideline on how you can start your business. That's a good idea, but that's a little bit different than paying an individual coach. You're kind of paying to be part of a community. And I think that has value, especially for the newbies. And even for the oldies who have been in business a while like us. I think it's good to kind of go join and do a 3-month sprint every year or two, just to kind of keep the wheels moving. And anyway, back to your question about how to know when you change mentors. Like I said, with Denver, I shouldn't say I outgrew them. I just needed a different type of mentorship. I'm still friends with those guys and they wish me the best because all of us have a growth mindset that there's enough. Just because I'm growing without them doesn't mean that we're growing apart. It just means we're growing together in our respective niches and fields. So, I go back to Denver and hang out with everyone, and my gosh, some of them have way bigger success stories than I could dream of in the meantime, which is great. So I don't think you need and when you ask for mentorship, it's not something you deserve. You don't deserve the mentorship just because you ask for it. You got to look at the value you're providing in every direction. That's your job as a business owner. You got to provide value to the customers, the investors. If you have to provide value to your employees. Of course, they work for a salary, but they also need to love it. Those are two different things. So you got to provide value in every direction, and mentorship's included in that.
Mm-hmm. So obviously COVID-19 impacted the opportunity to meet face-to-face. And you're saying obviously a handshake, you have to be in person. So what would you say to someone maybe who's starting out in the last year or two where we haven't really had the opportunity to network as much in person? Like, how can they still continue to develop those relationships?
Yeah, COVID's been an interesting game changer for the the networking space, you could say. Before COVID is when I was interviewing people and reaching out to really high-end billionaires, members of Congress, investors that normally I can't just text. And I feel I was doing that before the pandemic, but now I feel with everyone online, there's a lot more competition. We're getting more emails, we're getting more notifications, we're getting more follows and friend requests and all that everywhere online. So I think it's more competitive to start new relationships online.
Right.
But it's less competitive to start new relationships in person because of that. It's a supply and demand thing, isn't it?
Well, and I think people are somewhat fatigued having to be on the computer all the time, whether you're having Zoom meetings a lot, or again, social media interactions, whatever that is, there is somewhat of that fatigue of having to just be online and not being able to see people as much in person. And I know things are opening up in different places quicker than in others. And hopefully, we'll have the opportunity to really see each other more in person than we have over the last, almost 2 years. But in the meantime, I guess just helping them understand what can they be doing now to really develop those relationships, even if they can't be meeting face to face.
Yeah. So, go back to the value standpoint. I think if you're not out there networking in person, focus on maintaining your relationships. Think about what's the word? Reviving, renewing old relationships. Think about renewing relationships, people you've met years ago. Take a look at where you're at with your business now that we've been almost 2 years in the pandemic. Think about someone you haven't talked to in a while that might know something that can help you. And then think about a way that you can help them, or just wish them a happy birthday or send them a belated Happy New Year's card or something, and renew that relationship. I think that's something you could do, is work on maintaining and improving your existing relationships.
Right. Well, especially if people are starting something new, right? It's not a bad thing to reach out and just say, hey, I was thinking of you, and I just thought I would let you know kind of what I'm doing. And if there's a way that I can help you, like I said, giving value, right? By saying, this is what I'm doing now. If there's anything that you would need in this arena, I would love to be able to help you, or anything like that. I think that would be a good way to reach out again, because someone might say, well, I haven't talked to someone for years. It would be kind of awkward.
Maybe it will, but if that one's awkward, maybe the next one will be a little bit less awkward.
Right. Well, it's true. I think we all have muscles we have to develop, and sometimes that networking is not as easy, or knowing what to do or how to do it, what to say. And like I said, I think just working on it, we all learn through experience.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you talked earlier too about founders who are raising funding versus those who are not. So what are the differences that would make an impact on the business?
Yeah, well, with founders who are not raising money, you're looking for people with a skill set. With founders who are raising money, you're looking for people with a bank account. So, that kind of makes it different on who you're looking for. It might make it easier. It might be easier to find people who have a bank account than find people who have a skill set. And then, of course, after you find the people with a bank account, well, now they're paying you to go find the people who have the skill set. So you can't get away from this one. At the end of the day, if you're going to launch a successful business, you need to know the top players in your industry if you're going to grow and be successful at it. But the folks with the money, they always, I'll just share one thing I learned from organizing Startup Denver, which we paired entrepreneurs with investors every single month and had them pitch, just like Shark Tank. And you hear this quote, and then you organize these events for 2 years, and then you still hear that quote and you're like, yep, that really is the truth. And so for the founders who are raising capital, if you ask for funding, you're going to get feedback. But if you ask for feedback, you're going to get funding. They told me that in the early days. And then, I've raised hundreds of thousands, never over $1 million for a startup. So I by no means am an expert, but I have seen millions of dollars change hands based off the events that we organized. And I can tell you, it's much better to ask for feedback on your pitch deck and don't ask for funding. The pitch deck asks for funding, so you don't have to. Just ask for feedback on the pitch deck. That would be the difference from what I've learned.
And obviously bootstrapping is totally different than raising investment from others. And there's pros and cons to each. So, what would you say to somebody who, again, is thinking about maybe starting a business or has started a business recently and they're thinking that they need to have some kind of additional funds? What's the difference for them for bootstrapping versus raising that investment?
Yeah, well, most businesses, if not all businesses that raised funding, were bootstrapped before they started raising funding. So I think the goal, if you want to be serious about your business, you got to stop thinking about if you're doing this or that, and you need to just start doing that. And you need to go ahead and launch the website, pick your business name, buy your domain, type the about page, pick the words at the top, pay someone to create a logo. You need to go ahead and start to do that, because if someone's going to invest in you, they're only going to invest in you if you're invested in yourself. And if you're not invested in yourself, they're going to hesitate.
Right. Well, and I think the image, like you're saying, do your logo, get your website or anything. I mean, I would also say, be okay with investing in things that are going to help your business. So I understand too, when you're first starting out in business, cash can be tight and you're really looking at what you can spend your money on, but definitely investing in things that are going to help you with the business image and how people are going to find you. I think that's one of the investments that's well worth it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People need, if you see an entrepreneur that has an idea and talks about the idea, but doesn't have anything to show for that idea, you're not going to be as motivated to get involved, to invest, to give them advice. But if you see someone who has an idea and they don't know what they're doing, they have no idea what they're doing, but they're building a website and they're sharing it with everyone they know, and they're throwing money at this crazy idea, you're probably going to help them. You might even be more likely to invest in them, because at least they're investing in themselves, even if it's messy.
Right. So any other tips, advice that you would share with somebody in terms of networking and how to really impact their businesses through the relationships that they're developing?
Yeah, there's no shortcut. The networking is a long-term game. You can't expect to get the benefits today. And I know you're paying all this money to invest in the website and try to sell your services or your product, but at the end of the day, don't forget networking. You get returns from that later, 6 months, 6 years in the future. And just don't forget that it's something you just try to do your best at it and keep doing it and just stay consistent for years. It's not something, you can go if you need to go and sell something and you're starving for cash. Well, you can go and you can hand your business cards out at that event. You can try to sell that used car today. You can do it. And sometimes you will have to do it. If you are low on cash, then you need to invest in things that generate cash now. And you can't invest in things that generate more cash later, which in my opinion is win-win long-term relationships that generates more cash later. But yeah, sometimes you have to go and sell the used car.
Right. Yeah, it is hard when someone is first starting, because you do have that balance of, yes, I have to earn money so I can, pay myself, especially if it's the only thing they're doing. They're not, starting this on the side of another job or something. But at the same time, like I said, having the time to develop those relationships that are going to pay off in the long run is really important, right? Because they're going to see the clients who are going to need your services and can refer you. So having the time to really spend and let them know like who you are, who you serve, what you do. That's why it's so important to have those one-on-one times, so that you get to know about them and who's ideal for them. They can do the same for you.
Oh, I like the way you put that. It's kind of like that kind of gives our listeners an action item. If you don't want to be handing your card out, but you want to earn money faster, think about 3 people that you know and who you could refer to those 3 people. And maybe, hopefully one of them will return the favor for you.
Right. Yeah. For me, I think that having relationships with people who have very similar customers, but we serve them in different ways, I think has been really good, because, like the CPA who does the income taxes wants to have a good set of books, right? So they will refer people, to us who need to have their bookkeeping done, or maybe they need to go on payroll because of the entity they are. So they'll be referred to us, for that. Or we've had people who are looking for loans and they're a business and they don't have a good set of books. And the person at the bank says, well, you have to have a profit and loss report, a balance sheet, so they can refer to us. So it's finding those people who will see your ideal client as well and can refer. And sometimes you have to think outside of the box even. I know some people that are in a professional industry, and a hairdresser is great for them because they're talking with all kinds of people and finding out what's going on in their lives. And so you might be thinking, it's only like these kind of people, but think outside the box and think of who could really, in the long run, be a benefit for you, because they are seeing or talking to the ideal customers that you have.
That's so true. You're making me remember now, like months ago, someone like, I'm this online entrepreneur with staff in the Philippines building lead generation websites. And one of my friends said, Matt, you need to go to this construction conference where all these concrete contractors are. I was like, what? But then I realized, wait, we build lead generation websites for contractors. Concrete is one of our big niches. And yeah, we need to go to a concrete conference, even though we're this online company that takes payment in crypto. It's like, it is thinking outside of the box. It's totally different. And I need to get that concrete conference. I'm guilty. I need to go do it.
Right. Well, it was good you were on the interview then today, so I could prompt you.
Thank you, Candy.
Yeah. So obviously, our time is coming to the end for the interview today. So I do want to ask if you have like any type of offer you want to share with our listeners that can help them as well.
Sure. So we don't really have anything to sell you guys. We just build these lead generation websites. I think if you're a concrete contractor in a suburb of Houston, we might have leads for you for that one website, but I don't have much to sell you. But if you guys want to build passive income websites, or you are building passive income websites, lead generation websites, I'd love to chat and just share ideas and see how we can help each other grow. Other than that, if you're looking to invest in a profitable website, we do have some for sale on our website. But like I said, we're happy to hold those. They're earning profit every month. And you can check out our website, handshaking.com, where we help local contractors shake hands with more customers in their city. But yeah, happy to talk with anyone who's kind of investing or looking to learn at this space. It's a really fun space, as well as outsourcing to the Philippines, where I would pitch as the best country to outsource in. So looking forward to chatting with you guys.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Matt, for being a guest on my show and sharing your expertise on this. I really appreciate your time.
Yes, thanks, Candy, for putting this together. And for all the listeners still hanging out with us, thanks for your time as well.
And I do want to thank them as well. To myself, thank you for tuning in and listening to this topic. I hope it answered some of your questions on networking and playing the long game. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Matt. And you can also send us a message at media@abandp.com. And would you please share our show information with those you know? I'd greatly appreciate your support. I hope you can join us for next week's topic, financial clarity for a successful business. And please remember, you can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. You can also find the podcast posted on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next Tuesday. Have a terrific week.